Is not an unfamiliar face to many of you. We're talking about one of the youngest, most successful, and influential Muslim women around the globe. Her name is Ayana Moon. She was born on December 28, 1995, in Seoul, South Korea. Ayana is a famous actress, model, and influencer, notable for being a Korean Hijabi, and has over 3 million followers on Instagram. Initially, Ayana was the only person in her family to have accepted Islam, and she did so only at the age of 16. However, her brother Aydin Moon is also a Muslim now and fully supports his sister's participation in matters of her life and career. Ayana converted to Islam almost 8 years ago, at the age of 16. She's currently working as a Muslim fashion model and is the face of one of the beauty brands of Indonesia. Another inspiring fact about Ayana is that she's also a businesswoman, currently going about her own travel agency business. Ayana may have become an Islamic influencer at a very early age, but she wasn't born a Muslim. We'd like to explain Ayana's story about embracing Islam in her own words. I was 8 to 9 years old when there was an incident going on in Iraq. I had recently learned to use the internet, and Korea relates close to America, but I had never heard of Iraq before. So I got curious and looked it up on the internet. That's how I came across the word Islam for the first time. I found out that people in Iraq followed this religion called Islam, and I thought that the word Islam sounded cute. She said in one of her videos, while explaining her journey to Islam, that I saw pictures of girls in Iraq wearing loose outfits and covering their faces as I do now. Ayana has also told in another interview with DOPS TV that her grandfather was into politics. When the war erupted in Iraq, he'd usually talk about it in the house. And he would talk about Islam, about niqab, about hijab, because he was also shocked to hear about the concept of Muslim women who would cover their faces like I do now. But he did so in a bad way, because, to be honest, it is hard to understand this concept and this culture in the beginning, she says. For some people, this incident might have put a full stop to the appetite of learning about Islam. But Allah clearly had different plans for Ayana. She only became more intrigued, more curious, and continued to explore Islam. According to Ayana, my family's thinking about Islam shaped some of my earlier concepts about religion as well. However, when I read about Islam in the countries of the Middle East, that's when my opinion started to change. I read about their experiences and their lives, and I started to see Islam in a different way. I could not speak any foreign language back then, so I searched for Korean documentaries about Islam, and after I was done with the Korean documentaries, I went through some of the foreign videos that only had Korean subtitles. Years passed. I graduated from elementary school, middle school, and got into high school. My interest in Islam had been increasing consistently. I didn't realize that I had collected so much information throughout all these years about Islam, until my teachers, my friends, and my family acknowledged and pointed it out to me. Every time somebody would talk about the Middle East or Islam, my interest automatically peaked, and I'd participate in the conversation without me noticing it. The image of Muslims in Korea isn't very well, so there wasn't much I could do growing up. However, it was in high school when I finally got a chance to experience Islam closely. I happened to join a World Assembly of Muslim Youth camp in high school. It's the equivalent of a church retreat camp in Korea. It's a 3 days and 2 nights long camp, conducted by Muslims in Korea during the summer, to teach and learn more about Islam and Muslims. Even though I had read a lot about Muslims, I admit that I was still afraid. The image of Islam was really bad in Korea, and my parents had specifically asked me to call them right up in case of any inconvenience. During the camp, I happened to visit one of the mosques in Korea, and I met a really beautiful sister in one of the conference rooms. I met her and I realized how delusional I had been about Islam. There was nothing weird about her. I didn't see any oppressed woman. Instead, I saw a confident, beautiful young woman who was a practicing Muslim. That was my moment of reflection. That's when everything changed for me. Sister Ayana believes that from that day onward, she was only more inclined towards Islam. The journey became smooth, and she started to see things clearly. She also joined a weekly camp that was conducted every week in a mosque called Salam Nouri. That's also where she met one of her mentors, who taught her a lot more about Islam. She accepted Islam in 2012. I was scared, I was confused. How was I going to manage wearing hijab every day? I could not even wear a hat whenever my dad asked me to save myself from sunlight. How am I going to manage being a Muslim every day? Ayana says while laughing. But every such story has a silver lining. I accepted Islam as my religion. The more I learned about it, the more I fell in love with it. I did not have to go through any suffering during my journey to accept Islam. However, I know that many people in Korea and throughout the world do have to face such problems. Ayana is currently a renowned fashion and beauty model on Instagram. She's very active on her social media handles, including Instagram and YouTube. Her audience is mostly from Korea, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Ayana got her undergraduate degree from the International Islamic University in Malaysia. Sister Ayana plans to become a global Islamic influencer and wants to work as a bridge between Korea and the rest of the Islamic world. She also has recently launched a book that's called Ayana's Journey to Islam. We have nothing but sincere wishes for Ayana. We hope she keeps on fulfilling her dreams while continuing to inspire millions of people around the world. We also want to highlight that as Muslims, this right now is a time for us to become more accepting of different cultures and opinions. This is the time to grow and let the world recognize us for who we are. Let's help people like Ayana make an even larger difference in the world.